Yeah, the woman who fooled Hitler, the secret spy who turned the tide of Wartime. No backup, no weapons, just her charm and her lies. The Germans thought she was one of their own. In truth, she was feeding their darkest secrets to the Allies, right under their noses. This is the story of Agent Josephine, the nightclub singer who became one of the most effective spies of World War II. And she was hiding in plain sight. The world remembers Josephine Baker as the glamorous American dancer who captivated Paris in the roaring 20s. Her banana skirt, her cabaret routines, her flamboyant lifestyle. But what history often forgets is that behind that glittering facade was a woman willing to risk everything. Fame, fortune, even her life, to fight fascism. When war broke out in 1939, she didn't run. She volunteered, but not for the stage, for the resistance. France had fallen. The Nazi war machine rolled through Europe like thunder. Paris, the city Josephine had called home, was under occupation. Its Jewish citizens were being rounded up. Artists silenced, fear blanketed the streets. And Josephine, a black woman, a foreigner, an entertainer, was suddenly living in the belly of the beast. But instead of fleeing, she turned her fame into her greatest weapon. The French resistance needed eyes, ears, and someone who could move unnoticed. Josephine could. She traveled across Europe under the pretense of performing in Spain, Portugal, Morocco. Each show a cover, each applause a distraction. What no one knew was that inside her sheet music were coded messages, names, flight paths, invasion plans, intelligence gathered from Nazi officers she charmed at cocktail parties. She didn't carry a gun, she carried secrets. In Morocco, she housed resistance fighters on her estate, calling them her musicians. In Lisbon, she danced while memorizing troop movements. In Madrid, she flirted with high-ranking Germans, storing what they bragged about in invisible ink, often written in musical notes passed hand to hand through Allied channels. Her stardom became her shield, but the risk was real. One wrong step, one wrong note, and she would have vanished into a Gestapo cell, never to be seen again. In 1941, Josephine fell gravely ill in North Africa. Peritonitis, a burst appendix, she nearly died. For months she lay in a Casablanca hospital, recovering while the resistance begged her to return. Even from her hospital bed, she passed messages. She once joked, "They'll never search my underwear for secrets," and they didn't. Her body became a weapon of war. Back in Europe, Allied forces were preparing for D-Day. They needed intelligence. They needed routes, weak points, misinformation to feed the Nazis. Josephine delivered it all. She worked alongside the Deuxième Bureau, France's military intelligence. Later, she aided the Free French forces under Charles de Gaulle. She attended diplomatic functions, took mental snapshots of German maps, and sang in enemy territory while recording conversations in her head. No spotlight, no applause, just danger. After the war, Josephine Baker was awarded the Croix de Guerre, one of France's highest military honors. She also received the Legion of Honor, personally presented by de Gaulle. But she didn't boast. She didn't cash in. She simply returned to her stage. The world remembered her for her performances and not her espionage. Perhaps she preferred it that way. But Josephine's fight didn't end with Hitler. When she returned to America, she was stunned to find racism still thriving. She was denied hotel rooms, banned from clubs she once headlined. So she fought again, not with coded messages, but with marches. She stood beside Martin Luther King Jr. at the March on Washington. In fact, she was his widow's choice to take over the civil rights movement after his assassination. Josephine declined. She had 12 adopted children, her rainbow tribe from all races, and said they still need their mother. She died in 1975 at the age of 68. Her funeral was held with full French military honors, the first American woman ever to receive such a send-off. Over 20,000 people lined the streets of Paris. They came not just for a star, but for a hero. History often celebrates warriors with swords, with medals, with blood on their hands. But sometimes the most powerful warriors wear sequins, carry sheet music, and fight their wars not in trenches, but in whispers. Josephine Baker was not just a dancer. She was a spy, a symbol, and a silent storm that helped bring down the most brutal regime in modern history. In the shadows of war, where silence meant survival and truth could kill, she sang, not for fame, but for freedom.